Hello, hi everybody. Greg D'Amico here, and I have been asked by Sean Thomas to be one of your mentors, and I thought it was very appropriate actually, because all my life, I guess, I have been the type that when it comes to somebody saying you can't do it or you're not capable of do it, that I've pushed through and made it happen. So I am a most won't I will type of person. And I have lots of experiences, a lot of history to share, a lot of failures, and a few successes. And I think with that, there's some opportunity to share some things that can help other people out there in the business world. So a little bit about me. I live in Knoxville, Tennessee, and also have an office and a place in Fort Lauderdale. And I work from there mostly. I'm currently in Rochester, New York, visiting my family. So taking a little time to enjoy cooler weather up here in Rochester, and excited to be here. So what do? I have a software company. I do mobile app and e-commerce development for people, some integration, data management type work, dashboarding, and things like that. And that's what I currently do, but that's been an evolution. So as with a lot of us out there, we start with something and we evolve into other things. And my world initially was I got a finance degree and accounting minor from the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. And I went on to start a financial planning money management company with a partner that at one point along the way, being a little small firm out of Knoxville, Tennessee, I said to my partner, hey, I came in one day and I said, we're going to start a mutual fund. He's like, really? Well, who's going to run it? And I said, you are. He was the professor research type, a lot of wisdom, 20 years older than me. And then his next question was, well, how do you do it? And I said, I don't know, but I'm going to go figure it out. And that was the middle of 93. And 95, we had the fund up and running. And we launched on the first business day of 95. And by the end of that year, we had $2 million in assets, which was dinky for a mutual fund. But 5 years later, with the markets taking off and a lot of things positive happening in the late 90s, we ended up with over $640 million in that fund. And it was the #1 growth and income fund in the country, ranked by all the financial ranking agencies. And we also were placed on the Schwab Select list. And we had lots of money, $5 to $10 million a day coming in 2000. And then things changed, the world changed, and markets went down for quite a few years after that. A lot of the investing that we did was around connectivity. Anytime, if you look back historically in civilization, when we've had significant changes to technological changes to allow higher degrees of connectivity, we have seen higher living standards, higher growth opportunities, higher business opportunities that were a lot more attractive. And so, being that type of investment and looking at where the world was going, I saw that the future would be software. So as I was looking at opportunities to sell my fund, there was a lot of compliance issues in the early part of the 2000s, a lot of regulatory things, and it was burdens that I didn't want to deal with anymore. So we ended up looking for a buyer. But before then, I went to India, set up a team over there with I brought in a partner who actually built a fund for me when I had the investment firm, or she built a application that I needed for a fund that I was starting. And it was called the iFund. It was the first mutual fund of its kind. It was run by the shareholders. And it was with that experience of starting a fund or starting an application that was going to be evolving and growing and so forth, and working on that with a partner. At one point I said, let's start an investment or start a mutual fund, and we did. We ended up kicking off the company in 2004, and went and developed a team in India, and we started doing application development. Back then it wasn't a world of, I guess you would say, we were doing web applications, and the mobile app world hadn't arrived yet. But as soon as it did, and right after, I saw the future becoming very opportunistic, I guess you could say, in the app world. And I got our team to develop and figure out how to develop, and we started developing applications. So mobile applications on top of regular web applications. So anyway, good things happening, and I continued to evolve the firm, and where I am today. I worked with Coca-Cola. I still work with Coke actually, and I work with startups that want to have a mobile app and e-commerce or data integration and so on. So that's a little bit about me. There's a lot of other stuff you can fill in along the way. I had a franchise, 1-800-GOT-JUNK, for a few years. I'll talk a little bit more about that, as that's one of the questions that we have a franchise question coming up. So anyway, I look forward to your working together, your comments. I'm also a part of EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization. If you're not familiar with that, it's a group that you have to have a business of $1 million or more, and you either have started or founded the company and are own 50% or more of the company, and it puts you in a peer group. And I'm in that organization with Sean, and it's been it's been huge. One of the best decisions I made was to be a part of EO and be around peers that are successful, growing businesses, and they help me do a lot of things, and stay away from a lot of things from the experience sharing that we do in EO. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we go here, but let's get into some of the questions, and you'll get to learn about my history and other things as we go along. So let's see. Robin Turpin said, "Hi, Greg. Once you have a product to sell, what is the first step to setting up an e-commerce store?" Then she continues, "Is it saving money to hire people for branding and posting? How much product do you need? Thank you." Okay, so first part of the question, once you have a product, what is the first step in setting up an e-commerce store? Well, it's depending on what you're selling. If it's one product, the type of e-commerce store you're going to set up is going to be different than if you are, if you have a vast array of products. And do you need to inventory those products, or can you drop ship them? Means that somebody else is going to make it, and you're just going to create the opportunity to bring in customers and push them towards the manufacturer, and the manufacturer is going to ship it right to the customer. So it really depends on how you are going about your business. The other part of the question is it saving money to hire people for branding and posting? Not sure what you mean by posting, but that question would be better served by one of your other mentors, Joel Grandera, who is a EO friend of mine, and Sean is brought on to do mentorship. So I would get with him. He has a very successful e-commerce store selling directly to the public. I build e-commerce applications, so that's not in my wheelhouse, and something that would be a good question for him. How much product do you need? You don't actually need a product. So one of the interesting things that a lot of people are doing is they're creating a avenue or a storefront, and they may have a network or some other way to get access to customers, and they bring those customers in, and then they can connect them to the people that actually can provide the product. So you don't have to have a product. You can have one product, or you can have hundreds and thousands of products. The Coke Catalog, which is the application I built for Coke, is a large e-commerce procurement site that sells anything from cups that has Coke on them, to clocks on the walls, to the polar bears that you see on the commercials. And all that goes through a distribution center out of Knoxville, Tennessee, and called Rightway. And that is tens of thousands of different things that flow through that site. So it can be from 0 to however many. Next question. Aiden Omnet, I think is how you say your name. His question is, constantly struggling to find the right mix of humans and systems and management, from my experience, to build a successful and scalable e-commerce international company that he wants. He owns Aiden's Tyres. It's Tyres. He's a drop shipping auto parts store out of New Zealand, and he's been doing it for 11 years. I would welcome any suggestions or questions. We have so many systems, so much data and input from all directions these days. So Aiden, I would say that the systems are huge. When you're scaling a business, that to really be a bigger company, it's all about systems and processes. And a suggestion that I would make would be to read the book, The E-Myth, by Michael Gerber. And that book talks about how companies like McDonald's, where everything is a process, where you can bring anybody in, you barely with any training, and you can put them there. And even though they provide great training, they can, you know, put them in front of a machine, and the machine will do basically all the work. You put the fries down in, there's a timer that goes off, it tells you where you put the fries next, and everything is done the same. So you can have McDonald's all over the world, and whoever's running it, you're going to get the same product. And that's because they have incredible systems and processes. So I would make sure that your world is built around processes, and also the aspect of people. Having the right people is key. If any of you read one, I think, the best business books over the past 20 years, Jim Collins' Good to Great, he talks about that in his different research he's done about having the right people on the bus, and having them, not only the right people, but then in the right seats. So people are key. Finding those people and having a process to make sure they match your culture is huge, and a great opportunity for helping to scale a company. So if you're struggling, chances are it could be the people you have, or it could be the process that you have. So your questions are very appropriate. It looks like your eyes are pretty open in seeing that if you're having issues, that it could be around them and so forth. Also, from a software perspective, I mean, if you've got systems and so forth, and you have a lot of opportunity to connect those systems, grow them, and interact in a way that minimizes the steps that people are taking, so that things don't get messed up, and you don't have as much human input, that things can be automatic. One system can transfer data that gets entered one place into another area, so you don't have the ability for mistakes and so forth. So there's opportunities there. Next question. Let's go to Gabs Rice, I think you said her name. Hi, Greg. It's a pleasure to meet you. Administrative tasks have been building up at our company, and our small staff on site can't handle it anymore. I'd like to build a small team of 2 to 3 people who could do these remotely. How does one build effective and accountable remote working relationships? Are there any common mistakes we can avoid making? So one of my things I put in there was outsourcing, because I have my team in India, and I've been working with India and their culture and their communication issues and so forth since 2004. And I've had to go through a lot of, I say, hair pulling, a lot of strain and stress, getting to understand how to best work and optimize that opportunity. So finding somebody to work with, if it's going to be more cost effectively, and if it is overseas, can be a little bit challenging. There's people out there that can help you. So you say small staff, and I see about building out a small team that could help you remotely, and that can be done with looking at different companies. Brad Stevenson is an EO friend of mine out of Atlanta, and that's what he does. He helps businesses with figuring out what a appropriate type of outsourced team would be like, or outsourced people. He can hire virtual assistants, VAs through him. You can hire people that do manufacturing, call centers, and so forth, and connect you to the right places. He's got people all over the world. So if he's got a good place in the Philippines, or he's got a good place in Thailand, or if he's got a good place in whatever, in Mexico, then he can connect you to the places that will help with either those different areas: call centers, manufacturing, virtual assistants, software. He sends me business relative to higher end software development and so forth. So consider working with people like that can help you, especially if you want to build out a team. Otherwise, there's the opportunity to search on the internet and find some. I work with a virtual assistant and an India team that can help, and I just work with them when I need issues. Working with Brad, you would hire somebody that would be a dedicated full-time employee for you, or a dedicated virtual assistant to you, that you would they would be there to take care of all your needs. So different opportunities to look at that and to help. And if you want to know more, please message me, and I'll give you more direct information on that. So we got you guys are throwing all these challenging names at me. Adam Komowski, I think I messed that up, but Hi, Adam. So thanks for your time and knowledge. To build a team of VAs, is it better to work with a company that provides the VA or just try to build a VA one by one? Well, I kind of answered that question, so I'll go through a few other things, but I'm looking to build a team that can cold call and help lead generation online. Plus another team that can handle customer service and admin services. Any pitfalls that you were not aware of that you wished you knew going in? Well, talked a little bit about that, and the pitfall is the communication, okay, or culture. Because like my experience with India was that when I asked my team if they could have something done by Friday, for example, they would say yes sir, and they'd say yes sir to everything, and that yes sir was not exactly right on. So come Friday, and I told my client we would be getting it to them, and it wasn't done. And I went back to the team, I'm like, hey, what's going on here? And they're like, sorry sir. And I'm like, well, you told me Friday. Well, we couldn't do it, sir. So there was over time, I learned how to layer questions, dig into it, understand that yes sir may not mean, and to try to challenge that a little bit more and spend time digging in and communicating in a way. I set up a video conferencing system so I could see them live. They'd be sitting at an office table, and we have our team in the U.S. sitting at an office table, and that was hugely beneficial to understand where they were coming from. So when working with outsourced teams, there's some of those things to take into consideration, especially where you're working from, and knowing that they may not think like we do and think that a timely aspect is where it should be. So anyway, just if you have more around that, get with me and maybe we can have a personal call to discuss it. Thanks for that question, Adam. We have Brianna Carroll here, and she's asking, I just started a business as a franchise. I've gone back and forth about purchasing a master franchise for my whole state and becoming the sub-franchiser. What advice or points would you give for going into a venture like this? Also, the franchise is based in Canada, so what are some of the key things to keep in mind when working with someone outside of the U.S.? Well, when I had a franchise, I wanted the 1-800-GOT-JUNK franchises, and I wasn't a master franchise, so I don't have as much familiarity from master franchises, but from what I know about them is that you usually have an opportunity for scalability and a little bit more of a opportunity to lower your costs down. So I would explore that, but being a basic franchisor, I would look at opportunities for making sure you dig in and ask all the questions. My Canadian relationship was, my relationship with 1-800-GOT-JUNK was out of Vancouver, Canada. So I had the same situation. I was working with Canada, and there wasn't really any issues because in our agreements, they charge us directly with they charge us directly in the sense of dollars were made by charged directly to us. So anyway, I've got a little background over here, so sorry about that. So anyway, Canada. Sorry. Okay, no. Excuse me for 1 second. Okay, so I told you I was up here with my parents and getting a little distraction there. So anyway, as a franchisor in Canada, I didn't have any currency issues because they charge us in US dollars. So maybe that would be something to consider and think about, making sure that you're not having any currency situation to deal with. But otherwise, there was nothing. It was standard operating protocol, and I would look at your agreements to make sure that's the way it was. I think it was a good benefit for them because the US dollar had always been stronger than the Canadian dollar, except for some temporary period of time. So that always probably made them more money in the sense, but they were charging us their percentages off the top, and which is pretty standard in working with a franchise. So Shelly Morrell, hi Greg, can you talk about the app you have created for me and how you saw my vision? Another service company may need something similar. So one of your people out there is Shelly Morrell. She's out of California, and Sean hooked us up, and I built an app for her. She has a company called Integrated Fire that services people's companies. There's a lot of regulatory stuff, as most of you probably know, in California. And so whether it's inspections, training, or testing, they have to go in and make sure people are meeting the appropriate standards and regulatory approach for California. And so we built an app to schedule appointments around being able to go in and meet with their respective clients to do either an inspection or training or something like that. So with that, I was excited. We just finished it up, so she's just getting some experience with it, but we are making it simple for her so she could see this and have it visualized up on a board where you can, and that's what we do is dashboarding, putting up on a board and get the visualization of, like, hers is calendar, and it's like you see a calendar up on a big screen digitally, and you see, like, each day what type of inspections they are, and they're color coded for who's going to be going and visiting them. So good things happening with that. And if you have more questions about how she's doing with her application, you can talk to Shelly. So Kyle Bruce Banner Jones. Hi, Kyle. His question is, what are some of the pitfalls to avoid your first year doing e-commerce? Well, I would say, depending on the product and what you're doing, is I would not spend a lot of money making sure you get it going, okay? And making sure that you have a marketplace. So instead of, like, spending a lot of money to build out a big application and not getting any business, is to minimize the cost of to get it started. And that can be done with different applications. Shopify is a good place to go. We work with, like, Shopify to customize their world and so on. And then Magento. Magento would be another one that is a bigger commerce with a lot of e-commerce system that's a lot of inventory. So that would be another opportunity to look at and help get going. They minimize, because they have all the code kind of built in and ready for you. And actually, the Magento site is free, but it's kind of complicated and has to be customized. So there's development work around there. But those are a couple opportunities to work to get going. And so a pitfall would be, don't spend a lot of money before you know you got a marketplace. If you've got an e-commerce site already and you are selling online, then maximizing that opportunity would be something to be working towards, with processes and approaches and so on. And again, Joel Grandera would be a great person who does a lot of e-commerce selling. He's working directly retail with clients out there, and also he buys up smaller brands that are in his market niche. So he would be good to be selling. It's from the selling side. I do the building side, so I'm giving you my experience share from the building side. And Kyle Bruce Banner Jones again asked another question. How do you think AI is going to affect technology industry, especially with e-commerce and the UX overall? Well, AI has already significantly affected e-commerce, because anytime you go into, say, Amazon or other sites, there's a lot. AI, let me back up. AI is all about predictive intelligence, a predictive machine. It's predicting what's going to happen and what's upcoming. And so when you are in a site like Amazon and you're going to look at things, they're predicting things that you could potentially be interested in that would open your eyes and get you your eyeballs on a respective area that you could spend money on. So I would, AI is key. It's going to have a big effect. You're seeing it right now with the advent, depending on where you are in the country. There's a few places that are using automated cars or driverless cars, and with those cars, they're going to change a lot of things. It's going to be a lot of jobs are going to be affected, a lot of benefit. We're going to have lower deaths on the road because of it. We have lower insurance costs. It's going to be a huge technological change over the next few years. So there's a big effect, and as opposed to other opportunities out there, I would look to AI as some format for your business, because Everybody else is starting to. And if you're out there in the world doing business, figuring out how to incorporate AI into your world before other people do can give you a competitive advantage. So something to think about. It may not be timely for anybody's particular world that's listening, but it's something to keep your eyes on. And Sean Thomas asked, can you give people an understanding of what truly goes into building an app and price ranges? Okay, from my world of building an app, or let's see, well, building a mobile app is more complicated than building a website. So back when mobile apps started and we first started working with the business world on this, they said, yeah, let's do a mobile app. And then they realized the amount of work that was involved. We don't have the budget for that. But that amount has come down over time and is very, a lot more attractively priced these days with the amount of apps that have written. A lot of code has been written, so you can scale an app a little bit faster than before and don't have to write as much code. You have apps that if you just want to put something out, a brochure type app that shows who you are, if you have a website, it's not, and your website is formatted to be viewed on different applications, it's not necessary, okay? So I would say that the formatting of the app is key for your website. If it's formatted, don't do a mobile app. If you have an issue where you need to connect to data and connect customers, you have a huge opportunity with mobile apps. Think about it this way: our phones are here all the time, they're with us 24/7, and if you have a mobile app, then you have your customers you're in the palm of their hand 24/7. So engaging your customers in a way that could be push notifications or other types of engagements with the app, with geofencing and so forth when you're in your respective area. There's a lot to talk about there that we can get into another time. But with that, you have a huge marketing opportunity and a business, just running your business more effectively utilizing mobile apps. So mobile apps are good to push and pull data and to interact with the world in a way that allows them to have access to you. So if you're a restaurant and you have a mobile app and you have a slow period on Mondays or Tuesdays or whenever your day may be, and you send out a notification saying, hey, tonight we have a 2-for-1 special, and as long as they're open to push notifications, you can drive business into your respective business. So it's huge. Changing and exchanging the respective data can provide enormous avenues for helping your sales team. For example, if your sales team needs access to a lot of information, say you're a medical service company and you're selling apps or you're selling devices, and there's like all kinds of different devices, all kinds of different intel, updated things within the industry, that if you had a mobile app, then you can go into a client's office and talk to them about these respective products and be able to access that data and share the most up-to-date and the most details based on having that, plugging right into your inventory base and so forth. So a lot of inventory opportunities are available, other opportunities for changing prices and so forth in the short term or in a current live situation could be beneficial to you. So mobile apps are great. Not for everybody though, just because you're hearing maybe a lot of the marketplace and people out there talking about mobile apps, and while it's cool and maybe I should have one, they're not for everybody because it takes a little bit of a build. It's to get a respectable mobile app up there, you usually need both iOS and Android, and with that it takes a little bit more work to get them both in the marketplace. There are some things coming, they're out there right now, they call it crossover platforms, where you can do one build and be in both marketplaces with iOS and Android, but I don't like them. They do not provide there's problems with them. I've done one before and I had problems with it. I'm not doing another one until I find a group or organization that does it well and can upgrade that information. So what we build are called native apps, and that has direct access to the databases and so forth, and allows for the opportunity to just work better. And when updates happen, you don't have as much breakage with your respective screens that needs to be changed to get the latest iOS version that could affect your app. You got to upgrade and modify it to make sure that everything's working correctly. So with that, I'm going to, I don't have any more questions, and I'm just going to say it's good to be here, good to be sharing with you guys. Look forward to talking to you from my Lauderdale office, a little bit better scenery and so forth. And also wanted to finish by saying that being in a peer group like this is phenomenal. As I was started out saying, EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization, has been a huge part of my life. I've been all over the world with EO, and I've been to 20 different EO universities, which are like 5-day conferences from anywhere from India to Istanbul, Turkey, to Morocco, and all across from Argentina up to Montreal, Vancouver, so just all over the world. And I've met people everywhere. I've stayed in EO members' houses in New Zealand, in Dubai, and I just can't say enough about being a part of a peer group that you share with. You're able to discuss these activities. You go from 0 to 100 when you meet somebody in EO, because you have that commonality, and you just open to talk about so many things. Peer groups like what you have here are just like that, and allows for that sharing of information, that opportunity to learn and grow from other people. And it's so valuable, so helpful. It's helped me in so many ways, kept me out of things that could have caused me to, I don't know, lose a lot of money in. My 1-800 Got Junk franchise, I ended up closing it down because it wasn't making me money. A lot of the franchises do, but I wasn't first to market in my respective area, and it ended up being a problem. So talk about that more later. But again, being a part of a peer group is phenomenal, and enjoy what you're doing here with Most Won't, I Will. And until next time, take care. Bye.